So, I held a poll on my YouTube community page and y'all wanted me to review The Wild Robot, which I just watched a few days ago on Thursday. This is the newest DreamWorks animation film and also happens to be directed by Chris Sanders, who previously directed Lilo and Stitch for Walt Disney Pictures and also How to Train Your Dragon for DreamWorks previously. It's also worth noting he had a big hand in most of Disney's biggest films from the Disney Renaissance era in the 90s, like Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King, and Mulan. So, how does this movie compare to those other animated films? Well, I have thoughts. There's definitely a range of emotions I felt while watching this film. Not all of them were necessarily good, but when it was good, it was very good. Allow me to explain exactly how this film went for me. But before we begin, be sure to like this video and subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to ring that bell for notifications too if you want to keep up on my content. Share this video with a friend if you think they may like it. Also, be sure to follow my Twitch since we're pushing for Twitch partner over there, because I want to set up an autism awareness stream team. I stream mostly retro games over there. We're currently going through the Kingdom Hearts series for the first time, and also Epic Mickey Rebrushed. And when October comes around, we'll be starting Eternal Darkness on GameCube, and the first ever Resident Evil game for a horror game, since it'll be October. See what I did there? Anyway, on to today's video. So The Wild Robot follows a robot named Roz who crash lands on a wild island full of just woodland animals in the middle of nowhere. Roz is a robot programmed to handle tasks for its users, and her prime directive is to find a task and see it through till the end. Unfortunately, nobody on the island really wants to help her at all with her tasks, and she can't even really communicate with them at all at first, since they're all just woodland animals. She eventually does learn how to speak their language and tries to help them out with various tasks, but still, they do not want her help since they're all terrified of her since they've never seen a robot before. Eventually, she winds up accidentally destroying a family of birds while seeking out a task, leaving just one little egg that she ends up carrying around with her to make sure it doesn't get eaten by a sinister fox, or rather, crafty fox, played by Pedro Pascal. The egg winds up hatching, revealing a small gosling, which ends up imprinting itself onto Roz and deciding that it's its mother. Roz decides to name the gosling Brightbill and raises it as her own, teaching it her robotic ways. However, this causes Brightbill to be a total outcast from his real kind, the other geese, and it's up to him and Roz to figure out how to get him to fly south for the winter, and also how to find his place on the island. Now that short, spoiler-free synopsis is done, let's get some of the stuff I didn't care for as much out of the way first, because there is actually a lot I did like about this movie. I'd rather dwell on that if anything. I think one particular issue I had was the pacing of this film. I did feel like it dragged a little bit in the first 30 minutes or so, but eventually it very much did pick up after Brightbill tried to get together with the other geese and they all rejected him and bullied him. And the revelation came that Roz was actually the killer of his family, even though it was an accident. This really is like a shattering moment for Brightbill. He just completely breaks down and doesn't really want to be with Roz or the geese at all. He doesn't really feel like he belongs anywhere now that this revelation from Roz is there. But I think when the movie gets to this point, it really does start to pick up. But before that, I think there's a little too much meandering and a bit too much time wasted. That's just me though. I think the only other issue I really have with this film is when it tries to be funny, it doesn't always hit, I feel like. One joke they consistently rely on is these kid possums saying, "Oh, we're all gonna die, let's welcome the sweet embrace of death, or just other things like that they think sound edgy or nihilistic or shocking coming from a kid character. And I've heard that before in other animated movies, and it's not funny when they do it, and it's not funny when this one does either. This was kind of surprising to me because most of the other jokes were actually pretty good, what I would expect from DreamWorks and Chris Sanders too. But man, the amount of times they rely on some of the same not funny jokes like this is kind of shocking for Chris Sanders. I'm assuming he wasn't in charge of those jokes anyway. But apart from that, honestly this movie is actually really good and does earn the reputation it's definitely garnered in such a short amount of time. The visuals are absolutely gorgeous and this is definitely one of DreamWorks' best looking films, easily. Honestly, probably just one of the best looking animated films I've seen in a long time. It's not like Spider-Verse, but it's close. It's very close to that, and Puss in Boots: The Last Wish too. It just has like that really painterly storybook feel to it. Just looks gorgeous and pop right off the screen. Absolutely amazing looking. Another thing I really appreciate this film for is not relying on big name actors to cast in its voice cast. There are big names in here like Pedro Pascal, like I mentioned before, and also Lupita Nyong'o, I maybe mispronounced that, my apologies if so, who voices the main character Roz. And also, Mark Hamill was in this movie as Thorn, which I didn't even realize at first. Catherine O'Hara also voices the Mother Possum, which is pretty cool to see. But these actors are chosen because they fit the roles, not because they're big names. Actually, Bill Nighy's in this film too, I didn't even realize that. Davy Jones himself, the Disney legend, is in this film, which is amazing. He plays Longneck, the Goose Leader. I didn't even realize that until I left the theater and looked it up. Man, Bill Nighy is such a legend. I think the highlight of this film, though, is the relationship between Roz and Bright Bill. Chris Sanders' penchant, I think, in many of his films is creating a very believable and very emotional bond between two unlikely protagonists, like with Lilo and Stitch, and also like with Toothless and Hiccup and How to Train Your Dragon. That's sort of his go-to method for creating a story, and usually where he starts the basis of his storytelling. And it's no different here. It's just as emotional, just as impactful, and it really embraces a different dynamic than what we see in Lilo and Stitch and How to Train Your Dragon. Obviously, with Roz being Bright Bill's parental figure, there's a much different dynamic here, and it's really interesting when he disowns her initially after finding out she's the reason his family is dead and he feels like an outcast. After that, she's almost hesitant to call him her son, which is really saddening to see. After all, not even that long ago, Bright Bill was just perfectly content with calling Roz his mom, but now he's hesitant to do so after knowing everything he knows now about her and his family. And even when seeing Bright Bill off to fly south after training him for a long time, Roz isn't even sure if she should call him her son. And that scene definitely got me, for sure. I definitely brought a tear to my eye. This film does do very well with emotional beats when it does have them. Which, of course, being a Chris Sanders film, it does have many of them. Overall, I honestly do recommend The Wild Robot. I give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's not DreamWorks' best, like a lot of people have been saying, but it is still very, very good, and I hope a step in the right direction for even better things for them. As an animation studio, DreamWorks probably has the most up and down and polarizing track record out of any animation studio because they have hits and then they'll just have a miss next movie. It's very hard to tell with them if the movie is going to be good or not because of that. However, I am glad to say this one was good, and I do recommend seeing it in theaters, especially in IMAX. Just gorgeous, amazing. I saw this in ScreenX with all the different screens on all sides of me, and that was probably the best way to experience this film. Definitely see it in ScreenX if you can. Absolutely recommended. Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a like anyway. If you want to check out all my socials down below, you can see all those down there. And if you want to join my Discord too, where you can communicate with me and others offline, that should be linked down below. And if you want to check out my Letterboxd, that is linked down below as well. That's where I review movies, oftentimes movies or shows I won't review here on YouTube, so you can check that out too if you want extra content from me. But for now, I've been Noah the Otter, and I'll see you on the Otter side. Bye!